So good morning and welcome to this online session, and it's interactive. And Heidi and I will, for the next couple of hours, try to kind of involve you in this theme about an AI-enabled team coach. And the reason why we have these meetups is because we believe that AI will affect what we have worked with for so many years, teams. So both Heidi and I have worked with agile teams for a long time, help teams to use agile methodologies, collaborate, work together, deliver important products. What we're going to do in these sessions is to explore how AI would affect these agile teams, because this is perhaps not just a new tool, it's a new way of working. This is for the team coach especially. We have some role-based meetups, and we also have some role-based courses where we dive into special situations and special challenges that these roles have. And what we have for you today is two sections. First, a little bit of basics for team coaches and AI, and then we'll also do some prompt exercises. So also prepare to get some prompts back home that you hopefully can use in your own team. And then after that, we'll continue with more prompt exercises and also more considerations on how you can use AI as a team coach, but also in this team context. And when we say team coach here, we kind of mean team coach or / Scrum Master. But how about this AI? How are we doing these days? What do you think, Heidi?
Yeah, so let me take over a little bit here and welcome everybody. It's great to see people are ticking in. Like Jesper said, this is where we started to look at where can AI help us with teams, and one of the reasons for that is, as I'm sure you're all sensing it, how fast this is actually going, what's happening in this sphere. So a good place to start is just to look back. This is actually from 2023, so a couple of years ago when ChatGPT released. At that time, they were the fastest ever to reach 100 million users in only 2 months, beating, like you can see, a lot of other popular applications. So already there, the interest was high, and a lot of things started moving with that. If we're looking at then where has that taken us? Where are we now? For a while, I've been asking the question: where are we on this kind of acceleration curve? Because it's as you see it, I'm sure you notice it more and more places. It's evolving in a lot of different ways, and the questions I've been talking about, that we are at the turning point where now it's no longer, we used to talk about that we should digitalize and use software. All companies were software companies, but now it's more and more pointing towards, are we going to be AI companies, AI enabled people, roles, and all of this. And whether we're at the turning point or even starting to go behind it, I don't know, but it's that way it's moving. For sure, showing us something that goes extremely fast, and that also gives them some challenges, especially in companies, like how is leadership and how are the organizations going to evolve to handle all of this. And that's where our curiosity in about how can we also help with ideas and support for how can AI help us in our different roles at work. If we look at OpenAI, a year ago, they started building up this model as part of their vision and where they were heading. And at that time, we were talking about it and talking about that we were at level 1 with like ChatGPT. We could talk with like humans and this kind of thing. But the fact is that it has evolved a lot. So level 2, where it's about that it can start diving into problems with PhD levels and really doing investigations. That's for sure the models, they can do that now. So we have at level 2. Level 3, the defined, was about AI agents. So remember, at that time they were just talking about a future that was not there yet, but it's here now. So now we have the models that can work as agents on our behalf. So we can set up agents now. In the beginning, now it's still evolving, but we can do it, and we can have it to start following up, maybe find the news for us during the night when we're asleep or whatever it might be. And then the next step is how can AI help us to create really new innovation? And that's probably where it's starting to stir. And then the level 5 is all about how can AI perform the work maybe of entire organizations of people, or will we ever get there? Some say we will get there within 5 years, some say it will take much, much longer. Some say we can't. We don't know yet, but we know for sure that we can see what they are providing right now of possibilities. Is that we are here at the level 3 now is for sure a lot of what we see.
Just before we continue, let's reflect a little bit on these 5 levels. So if we reflect on these 5 levels of AI development that might happen in the future, you could say, or we believe actually that they will happen, but we don't know when, then these progressions in AI will also affect us as humans. So what does this AI development require from us as humans? Let's consider that a little bit, and you spend a few moments on that. Well, when we first got AI and ChatGPT and other AI assistants, what we need to use them is simply skills. We have to learn to use the tool and apply use cases of AI. And typically that was done individually, like we did with small prompting and getting help for our own tasks, you could say. But if we kind of raise the level of AI where it kind of gets a little bit smarter than we are sometimes, actually, and that's what we also experience sometimes, that they can research a lot and do things a lot faster, then we have to raise our perspective and not just think about skills and tool use, but also about interactions between human and AI, and how could that work? And we'll see actually some examples a little bit later in this session also about how we can work with kind of raising the perspectives of how we use AI, and not just individually, but also in teams. And what about agents taking actions on users' behalf? What does that require from us? Well, now we're getting into the gut feeling of humans. Is something good or bad, you could say? Is it ethical? We have to have some deeper ethical considerations when we let AI do something on behalf of us, and understand that this is perhaps a self-managing and perhaps also even self-evolving system. So we have to go into our decisions and sense, so what can we actually delegate to AI agents here? When AI can create new innovations, what does that require from us? Well, we have to raise our bar again, you could say. We have to develop as leaders. And we believe that all need to be leaders in a world like that, and not just leaders of others, but also ourselves. So we have to set goals and develop strategies, and also knowing our deep motivations for whatever we do, actually, because new innovations can actually create a lot of new things. And we have to look back into ourselves and learn what are our own motivations for doing something. And if we reach the top level, we don't know if and when it's going to happen, but we might as well prepare for it. We have to think about what is really the highest purpose of what we do. And the highest purpose would be to benefit other humans. So when we get a tool like artificial general intelligence, which we believe is a powerful tool, then we also have to think about how can we use it for the benefit, not just for us and our organization, but for the benefit of all of us. We will start looking at the first 2 levels here with the skills and perspectives. Anything said about how AI works in teams? Any research on that, Heidi?
Yeah, exactly, because that's just what I want to share something with you that was published a week ago, and that really talks into where the sphere we're working in right now. And we thought it was a very interesting and one of the first research reports coming out on how does AI actually affect our teams. The reference as you see it here, so it's from Harvard Business School. They have made this field experiment called the cybernetic teammate. How does generative AI reshape teamwork and expertise? And I just really briefly want to share with you the setting for the experiment they did. They asked the question, how does AI transform the core pillar of collaboration when we're thinking about in a team context at work? So focusing in on performance, on expertise sharing, and social engagement. They had 776 professionals In one company, it's a company called Procter and Gamble. It's a global consumer packaged goods company, so a large company. And the mix of people were commercial experts and technical research and development experts. And the majority of the people were very experienced. So they knew what they were doing and knew their domain a lot. They were working on real product innovation challenges, so doing their normal work with or without AI. They were randomly assigned to work with or without AI. Either they were working individually, just having AI as a support, or they were working with someone within the team context with AI. So that was a randomization done. Everyone who were assigned to the AI condition, they were given a short training session and a set of prompts they could use or modify. So just a little bit like Jesper's going to take us through after this with talking about prompts and getting us all started. So that was sort of the setting. And the reason why I will share just a little bit about it here is because the results are very interesting. The first one I just took out, I just wanted to share, is that it showed something very surprising, actually, that if we had a whole team not using AI, and both Jesper and I for many years talked about the benefits of being a team instead of being individuals, that when we bring our knowledge together, we can achieve more and do better things. And it turned out that an individual getting started with AI actually did perform better than an equal team without any AI available. And then, as you can see in this short research, that it was that the team with AI, they performed a little bit better than the individual. But the interesting thing is to see that if we really get the collaboration going with AI, it turns out to be something more valuable than a whole team not using AI. So it's nice you're all here, and hopefully you can be inspired to roll out more AI in your teams at the right level and order. But that was one perspective on the research. Another one was about the quality and the innovation, coming up with real top 10 quality solutions within the experiment when it was running. And that turned out that at that time, it was no longer just an individual with AI that performed the best. Actually, teams with no AI, they had more knowledge in common so that they performed better. But as you can see to the right, teams using AI significantly did better than the other three cases. And every time, as you can see, I'm not even mentioning the individual without no AI, because it was clear that was moving behind compared to using it or being in a team. And then the final thing, that was about the more social part of it. And that has been some of our concerns. And one of the reasons we want to do these talks as well is that we have sometimes had a concern, are we just going to be people just looking more and more, talking to a screen, talking to AI and forgetting people around us, or what will happen and what will it do to us? How will we feel about that? Will it make us more anxious and nervous? And this study also came with another surprise, because it actually showed that during the experiment, it turned out that the people felt better. So the increase in positive emotions happened also with teams working without AI. But as you can see, a team working with AI, they actually measured that positive emotions they raised during this period. So it wasn't something that was pulling us down, but actually giving us something. And equally, it had a decrease in negative emotions. So less anxiety and frustrations was measured within the experiment here. And of course, one research can't stand alone, but still, I think it gives us some good indications of the possibilities, and that maybe it's something really worth embracing. So I just took the conclusion from the research as you see it here. So the results suggest that AI adoption at scale in knowledge work reshapes not only performance, but also how expertise and social connectivity manifest within teams, compelling organizations to rethink the very structure of collaborative work. If you're curious about more, we can share the link for the report, or we could actually share our latest blog that one of our colleagues, Bent, has written a blog about some of our experience, but also referring to this research as well. So just summing all of that up, that just talking about here is more and more looking AI as a teammate and not just a tool. And just collecting a couple of benefits from that. So maybe for better discussions where AI can help explore more perspectives and scenarios. For creative sparring, so AI generates the ideas and variations very rapidly, I'm sure some of you have already experienced that, but really utilizing that part as well. And then for reflection and feedback, that's also where I often use it to challenge the assumptions we have, or what's missing, what have I not thought about yet. So asking getting some clever questions back so that we can answer ourselves. And then also for fast execution. So like Jesper talked about as well before, that when on level 2, often AI can do things much faster than we can do with our heads and our skills. And then they're always available. It's a teammate you have 24/7 with no ego, unless you created part of that in the persona. No coffee breaks, no life I put in as well, because it's just there for us.
So how can we get this to work in a team? We've been used to working with cross-functional teams. So we've done that for many years these days. And how can we AI enable this team? Well, they're used to collaborating. Fortunately, you could say. That's what we want cross-functional teams to do. And they have some roles and responsibilities. So we know roles like developers, testers, business analysts, and so forth. And we also work with improvement. So we have some good practices in a good cross-functional agile teams that we then can build upon. Because when we AI enable this team, we put AI assistants into this team. They could help different roles. That would be one way, at least, to kind of start AI enabling this team, looking at the roles and see how can these roles get help for the responsibilities that they have from an AI assistant. So we believe really deeply that AI should be a team effort. And we can also see the research says that if we AI enable the full team and they collaborate and improve that together, we will get better results. And also, we believe, happier humans. And a few AI techniques to kind of work with AI enabling this team. We can make custom AI assistants. We could make a design thinker help us, a tester, a reviewer of something. So we can kind of adjust the models so they behave in a specific role with specific responsibilities and with specific skills also. And we can also give it tools through APIs. We'll see a short example of that where we can give a tool to an AI so we could use it on behalf of us or help us using a tool. And of course, we also have to give it context and learning. Context about our own situation, and you will also try that in the prompt exercises. And one AI assistant is not necessarily the only way of enabling teams. So we can also work with open source, small and cheap, specialized models. And we have to think about how these agents interact with each other. And we'll see a little bit later some examples and a small demo of how this could be put up in an agile team context. But what could guide us when we turn to AI and want to AI enable a team? Any good principles that we can think of?
Yes, because when we started doing this actually a year ago, we inspired by one of the inspiration was Ethan Mollock, written Co-Intelligence, and talking a lot about that things are changing so fast now that we can't get stuck on one technology or one approach into this. So what do we do, and what can support us? And that's principles. Jesper and I sat down as well and came up with what we thought, okay, this is going to be our principles to guide us every time we look into something new. We've got 4 principles that we lean towards, and you see them here on the screen. And I'm just going to take you very quickly through each one of them just to give a little insights in what is it we're thinking around the principles. So the first one is use AI everywhere. Really to remind ourselves to use it places that we would probably not initially think about using it. And to do that, to really experiment, to learn and to understand the strengths and weaknesses. And I would say that is what has taken us to also what some of the things we're going to share here is reminding ourselves continuously to challenge ourselves to think, oh, could we use AI for this? So keep asking ourselves that question. So we start doing it in not just a linear way, but doing it out and spreading it out in different perspectives. And we want to do that also to know where it can assist us, but also where it can work against us. So we see a lot of people concerned also with their work in the future. So instead of being worried, is to understand how can I utilize it in my role, and maybe know where my role will be changing as well, because we're for sure also looking into that. So that's principle number one for us, is to really use AI everywhere. And then very close to us is to have human in the loop. So acknowledging that AI works best with human help, with the human knowing what I want to use AI for, and not the other way around. So be clear on your intent before using it. So you ask the right things, or you set it up for the right thing. And then really very much using our human judgment and expertise. Because AI still, has evolved a lot lately, but it is still built in a way where make you happy beats being accurate. So there are faults in, and it's not always correct, and it can seem very convincing what the results you get, but they might not at all be realistic, and they might just been made up. So we need to put ourselves in the loop together with AI. So that's really key. And then also the possibility of perhaps putting being human even more into place. So what is it we as humans are really good at? If we can get help with a lot of the other activities, with what our heads normally have to figure out, we're so curious about how can we then put ourselves even more in play as human beings, and with the capabilities that we have that no one else has got. So that's driving us as well. And the third principle is treat AI as a person. That's more and more recommendations about how to actually look at it as a person, as an employee, or whatever it might be. And we have 4 different angles into what kind of person is it. So the first one is the intern, having this eager, fast reply, but not always correct, but very enthusiastic about always helping you, and yes, please, filling sometimes in with a lot of emojis that you don't need, and this kind of thing as an intern. Also like a co-worker, so that's also what Jesper will share later on today, is how can we have AI as part of a team, being a team member or a co-worker. Then how to use it as a teacher, so have it to help us to teach something I don't know enough about. Can you explain this in another way, or that kind of thing. And then as a coach, so helping it to coach you with challenges in your team, challenge for yourself, team development, personal development, and so on. So those are our principle number 3. And finally, we have responsible. Be responsible. So the whole topic about ethical design, making it transparent and explainable, so we know how we use it and what it's built on, the models, be accountable and have the governance in place. And then also bear in mind around sustainability. Some of these models spend a lot of energy, and others don't. So having that perspective is key to us as well. So that's our 4 principles that we continuously lean towards.
So what do you say about doing some prompting now? So we have some prompts for you. We'll try to use AI in 2 situations, sprint planning and retrospectives. I'll just explain what this prompt is about. The situation here is that you're having your next sprint planning, and you would like some help to get input for the agenda, the facilitation techniques. That's the output we get from this prompt. And you have also to give some input. So in this prompt, you can give some team members the team maturity, which often influences how we do sprint plannings. And also if it's remote or hybrid, and if you have any online tools available. So how does that look in the prompt? We're sharing a file. It's an MD file, which is basically just a text file, but MD because it's formatted in Markdown, which is a usual way of writing prompts. And when you get that, then you have to fill in your own context. And if you see these comments here in this section here, the start section, then fill in the team members, sprint length. You can do that here by filling in how many team members are you, and what roles are you, and how many roles, how many developers, how many testers, and also the maturity level you can fill in this one. And if it's a remote or hybrid setting, that's down here. And when you've done that, feel free to remove the comments here. Usually it shouldn't affect the prompting here. When you have done your input, and that's usually a good idea to do that in some kind of text editor, could also be done in Word perhaps. But your preferred prompting tool, you could also just paste it in and then edit it in the AI assistant. Then execute the prompt and read the output. And what you will get from this prompt is some input for the agenda, how to facilitate this, and also a little bit about what to look at when you have this sprint planning. And if you can use your own context, of course, you can actually do a little bit of work in this setting here. So the next thing we want to try is the retrospective. In my experience, retrospectives are actually one of the more difficult meetings in Scrum to facilitate because there's a lot of things you want to include, the psychological safety, and also want to get something concrete out of the retrospectives. And if we also facilitate it in different ways for each retrospective, that's also usually a good idea. So now we have a small prompt that can help you with your retrospective and preparing for that. And again, we have some input and we have some output. And you have to give your input because that's about your team. And of course, if you don't have a team, then you can also kind of make a small fictive team. How that looks in the prompt is through 8 questions in the beginning here. And see if you can go through these 8 questions, a little bit about the tone, energy in the team, significant events, blockers, goals were agreed upon on the last retrospective. Were they achieved? Other team dynamics, individuals, feedback from team members that could shape the session, external factors. What do you want out of this retrospective? And are they, again, as we did with sprint planning, co-located or remote or hybrid? So these are some of the good things to give as input for your retrospective. And what you will get out of this prompt is some activities, preparation, post actions, etc. Off with the prompt you go, but remember to give it the context first. So just to follow up on one of your comments, Alex, you had a good point about the first prompt with the sprint planning. Perhaps it didn't really give a new perspective. It was more general, kind of what we could have thought out ourselves. So that could lead us to think, well, AI cannot really help us with sprint planning. They are not kind of clever enough. So that's one perspective. Another perspective could be perhaps we haven't asked about the right thing, or we haven't given it the right context. And this is where we as humans have a really important task of kind of thinking also sometimes out of the box in terms of what do we really need? What are relevant input or perspectives that we want to explore? So we don't just get the kind of general output of, for example, sprint planning. A lot can typically be done on our behalf in terms of writing a good prompt and iterating over the prompt also. If this doesn't give a good output, then try to adjust the prompt. Feel free to comment on that, Alex, if you have anything to...
Yeah, I think it would be good to try different things, right? Like you're saying, like adapt it. But I do like the prompt writing because it's good to see how detailed it needs to be. So more instructions perhaps, and then tailor it to the teams. I think there was another comment around it.
Yes. Sometimes you can also just ask it to think a little bit, not just as a standard Scrum, for example. Just to write that as a follow-up question for this prompt. It already knows your context. You're already given it some context, and you can ask it to explore some other alternatives of having this. Perhaps make it shorter or more engaging or whatever. I would assume that you get a good conversation out of that. I think we're closing in for a little bit of a break here. How do we prepare for the break, Heidi? What do you think?
I think we should just do a very, very short exercise. It doesn't require anything from you apart from just being right now where you are, and it will only take about a minute. And what I would like us to do is we've just looked a lot probably on the screen, heavy text. It needs refining perhaps to be more user-friendly or getting used to it, but we've been very much up in our head. So before going to the break and what I talked about before, being human in the loop of AI and what makes us human, I would really invite you to just for a minute, take a deep breath all the way down your stomach and exhale. And then if you feel like it, feel free to close your eyes or just gaze with your eyes at something in front of you, not focusing hard, but just really being relaxed in your face. And take a deep breath again. And keep doing that. And then perhaps for a minute, just picture the sun shining on you. What does that feel like? And keep breathing. Feel the surface you're sitting on or standing at. Try and relax your shoulders. Now picture you're standing somewhere out in the nature and the sun is shining on you. Feel the sunshine, you feel the surroundings, and you just relax. And you take another deep breath all the way down your stomach. And you slowly get back to where you are right now. Open your eyes or start focusing your eyes. And then it's actually time to have a break. I want to kick this second half off just sharing one example I actually came up with last week, because I soon have to help a team. And one of the things I quite often turn to is something called the 5 dysfunctions of teams. And I don't know that perhaps some of you are familiar with that as well. It's a method made by Patrick Lencioni. He's written a couple of books about it as well, but he's very much focusing on if we don't have the results we want in our company, in our organization, in a team, it doesn't help just try and figure out how can we get better at making the results if something is more underlying. And one of the things that in the model that it points to is that if we have absence of trust, if we don't trust each other, if we don't have psychological safety, it doesn't matter how much you focus and push on the results. You need to move towards what is it that we really need to solve. So quite often this is a good model. I enjoy using it a lot to talk to teams and see how can we improve, because if we don't have trust, we don't have the environment for what we call healthy conflicts, where we can share different opinions and still back each other up. And that leads to the lack of commitment, avoidance of accountability, and then inattention to results. So I asked myself last week, how can AI help me with this next thing coming up? And I wanted to do it really quick to show how fast you can start getting the inspiration, and then of course being human in the loop take over with your knowledge. First of all, I thought I needed some data, like Jesper mentioned it before the break as well. We need to give some data before AI can help us. So I found a free survey. You can see the link here on the screen, a really quick one that I will, when doing it, ask people to quickly fill in and receive in an email. So we collect the data. So how do each one of us anonymously feel about different perspectives in the team? So that's all built up around the 5 dysfunctions of teams. And then I asked ChatGPT. So I told ChatGPT very little, so not at all as well done as what Jesper shared with you before and what you tried. So here we have a ton of room for improvement, but still just to see how fast can we get going. So I shared the data that I had got so far, but in the real world it would be I would upload all of the data I had. I asked it to analyze and make concrete suggestions on something not time consuming to do to improve, just to see where that would take us. And straight away, I got the results that I completely agreed about. That was what I had looked into as well. There was something in the data I had given about avoidance of accountability. So that's where we should focus, and that was perfectly according to what the model would have suggested as well. And then it came up with some ideas, some concrete things that we could look into. The first one was about a peer check-in, or in my mind, it was more like a daily stand-up or something familiar. So I thought that's probably something already up and running. The second one was visibility. In my mind, that's a Kanban board, have something visible. What is it we're all doing? So maybe not. But the third one was to facilitate a quick workshop, just to have the team agree and refresh team norms and so on. And I thought, that one, let's see what it's got. So I asked it to come up with a guide for facilitation. I have a team of 8 team members, and they're distributed. So again, we could have told it much more and got much more a clear picture of it. But what it came up with was something useful for me. I thought the content, and I'm not sharing it here on the screen, but it was something I could have made some adjustments just to get it all going. And then I got curious, because then it asked me if it should help me make the agenda presentation, or if it should make a Miro board. And I used Miro, so I thought, okay, what have you got? And a minute later, I was in Miro working with a template, guiding me through the 5 dysfunctions of team, with the focus on lack of accountability. And my whole workshop was laid out and ready for me to make the adjustments I wanted to do to make it mine. But I could not have done that on my own in the 10 minutes I spent on what I just shared here. Just a little inspiration as well.
So 10 minutes later, you were working in Miro with your adjusted agenda, and perhaps also ready to invite your team members, right?
Yes, exactly.
Let's also upgrade a little bit on see how we can use this AI relating to teams. So we want to share a little case where we try to identify patterns in a team and address team challenges, and also put your role as a team coach into that. So again, there's a small prompt here, but before we go into the prompt, what we are trying here is to analyze a cumulative flow diagram. So not to dive deeply into the theory of cumulative flow diagram, but it shows across sprints how stories flow through some different stages. It goes from backlog to do, in progress, review, and done. Could be an example of a process for a team. And in the chart here, you can see at a certain point in time how many stories there are in each of these phases. And that can actually show us something about team flow. So what we'll try now, and perhaps get a little bit more advanced than in the previous exercise, we will share a prompt with you. You don't have to adjust the prompt, but you have also get some input. And that is a fictive small data set of 12 sprints. Then you just have to fire the prompt, and you do that with the following steps. First, you paste in the prompt, and then when you get access to the data file, we have a small link for that. Perhaps you can download it and then upload the file for your AI assistant. And what you will get is an analysis and suggestions of improvement for this data set. Let's see if you can get that going. You should have received the prompt. You can paste that in, don't need to adjust anything. And if you can download the small CSV file, which contains the data set, then usually your AI assistant would also take that into the prompt and then read the output again. So now we have set the context for this and small analysis of this team. And I would assume that you have gotten some input on suggestions for improvements, but try to continue the conversation. We actually just talked about that, and Heidi also showed how you can continue the conversation, because it already have some context within your specific chat, and try to execute these 2 prompts. So how could I help the team to address some of the identified challenges? What we expect you to get is something more concrete. And after that, see if this could also help you with some perspectives on what could be my own role as a team coach in this situation. So what could you do as a team coach?
I want to give you another little sharing about some of our experiences. As I said earlier, one of our principles guiding us is use AI everywhere. So 2 weeks ago, we were having a team day. The partner group in BestBrains Academy, we met up and we were going to do a lot of things together. And we thought this time we're really going to invite our new buddy, BBA AI partner, on board. So BBA AI partner is our ChatGPT version where we have user-defined it with a lot of information about companies, our values, and who we are and what we do. And then we thought we wanted to explore how that could help us before, during, and after this day. And I just want to share a little snippet of it with you today. And what I want to share is that we decided one of the things we wanted to do was to spend a little time on giving each other feedback. And we prepared that up front, and we also shared it with our AI partner. And then during the day, the AI partner had actually helped us figuring out how could we do that in a good way. And that's what you see reflected on the picture, where it gave us a way we could circulate around, sitting in front of each other. So we got to be the humans we like to be, looking at each other with a piece of paper with it written on. And we had a really nice session with giving feedback. Something easily done. It was done without the AI. The AI had nothing to do with that actually exercise. But after we did that, we had another couple of topics we had to cover. The AI partner was informed about what came out of it and helped us a bit. And then at a point, we needed to do a walk and a talk. I'm a big fan of doing that whenever it's possible to get us out and have different surroundings while we talk about something. But we were there, uneven number, figuring out what to do, and we thought, why don't we just ask our AI partner? It's been following us the whole day, knew everything we'd been talking about and the feedback we'd been giving each other. So for fun, we just asked the AI partner what would be the optimal way to do a walk and talk. And immediately came out with 3 different scenarios. So who should walk together if we needed to be energized and get more energy? Who should walk together if we should be more challenging each other and getting that thing going, or who should be walking together if getting different perspectives. So just to say that even though we didn't take AI in the hand when we then did the walk and talk, but we got some good inspiration, and sometimes maybe also breaking our own habits or tending to what we would normally do, asking the question, why do we want to do this walk and talk? Is it to be energized? Is it to be challenged? Or what do we want to achieve? So once up and running, we were quite excited about the day. And that's actually the blog post I shared earlier from Bent is also writing more about what we used it for during that day. But so that was just little insights into some of the other things we're playing around with and trying to gain the help from. That, of course, also leaves us with some questions. And what are some of the AI considerations? Jesper's shortly going to show how we really are going to use. How can we get AI incorporated in the team and be a team member? How are we starting to look at that? But before we do that, we would like to ask the question here. So what about the ethical concerns? So you saw me present the principle around be responsible, and a big part of that is also, are there any ethical considerations when we use AI as a team coach, or when we as a team coach invite AI in to be a team member in our team? What are our thoughts? Just to orchestrate it, we will use the same breakout rooms again. It's going to be a short check-in in your groups. What are your thoughts on that, on the ethical perspective?
So welcome back. Please, if you have any considerations, you also have a good point one of you in the chat saying that why talk about ethics in this situation? That's a good perspective, actually. Perhaps we've gotten more kind of sensible and ethics means more in this era than previously, perhaps. But when we work in teams, at least our experiences and our value is that we have to take care of the people who's working in the team, of course. So how can we enable a team, and not just by giving the individual team members a chat GPT and then chatting and then solving their own task, but kind of putting a team perspective, raising the perspective of using AI within a team? Well, we made a small proof of concept of that I'm actually using in a small team these days. I'm the product owner, and we have 2 developers, and we also have a UXer, and we're using tools, Trello and Zapier, which can be linked together. How's that set up? Well, the Trello board is a Kanban board where we have our tasks, our stories that we work on, and we also use the tool called Figma for UX. Some of you perhaps have heard about that. And we also want to do tests in a few weeks. But the tasks with stories, we have actually integrated with ChatGPT through the tool called Zapier, which is kind of an integration tool that can integrate almost everything in the internet, at least, that is cloud-based. So how does that work? Well, let me show you that. So this is our Kanban board. And in this small team, we are building a small application that can help you plan events like weddings, big birthdays, or business events for that sake. And one of the small stories that we need to deliver, one of the first one, is to create a new event with some very basic information, with the name of the event, the date, time and place, and so forth. So I can send invitations to the participants. So that's the storyline. And at the moment here, we don't have any other information about the need here. Now I can move this story to a column called AI input for clarification. And what I hope will happen in a few seconds is that Zapier will discover that this card have moved and call ChatGPT and help me with filling out some of the details of this user story. So I hope for some acceptance criteria and perhaps also some clarifications. So this is the proof of concept, you could say. When we're using new tools and try to connect them together, sometimes it works and sometimes there's a little bit of waiting time, but it actually moved and we can now open the story again. We have now gotten some acceptance criteria on this story. So it's read the storyline. It can help me with clarifying, are there any special things I need to consider here? Because it came with clarifications and also gave some security concerns because I asked it to do so. So it might be that in this case, we want to focus a lot on security, so why not get some input for that? And it only took a short time. And if I want to adjust something here, perhaps don't need a confirmation. Actually, this is all good, but I could change the acceptance criteria or adjust them a little bit, save the story, and then continue the flow here. So let's try the next input here and put it into UI sketches input. So this probably takes a little more time because it has some images involved with that. But while we wait for that, I can also show you where the instructions for this small flow is placed. It's also placed in a small board. It's shared, of course, in the team, so we can all look at these small prompts, and they are actually pretty simple, more simple than we just saw in the session. So it's 2 sentences: return acceptance criteria and clarifications, and let a security architect review the story. So we also used a role-based prompt here. So that gave the result that we just saw. And you also have to consider the context. And the context that we use in almost every of these steps here is a big description of what this app is about. This is also something that we continue kind of improving the context so we get better answers. And look now, we have now gotten some sketches. We're using ChatGPT at the moment. The recent weeks, it's improved a little bit with the image generation, but it's not really something really usable yet, I would say. But if we click here, we can see that, well, it actually made some different alternatives for this user interface. But I think we need some more kind of adjusting with the prompting and perhaps using some other tools also for this, but could be a good first try here. And how we have done this is also to make it in 2 steps. First, ask ChatGPT to make 3 variations of a mock-up for the user interface and then get it to draw it also. So that's prompting where we have a sequence of prompts behind the scenes. We also want some input for test cases. So now that we have written some acceptance criteria, it should be pretty straightforward also to have some test cases. And there are many ways of using test cases. In this case, we have tried to generate some test cases that we can use for test automation. When we do that, we want to have a specific format of test cases, which is, perhaps you've heard about it, but it's called Gherkin, where we have the syntax of given something, when this happens, then we expect some specific results. And perhaps it also takes a little bit of a while to do that, but hopefully in a few seconds, it would move to review test cases here. People ask me when I show this, well, can we do this today? Yes, of course you can do it if you're in the cloud, but if you are kind of working more behind firewalls and internally applications, perhaps you cannot do it today, but who knows, in a few months, half a year, I would expect you could actually do something similar to this. So instead of copying back and forth here, we have things collected one place, and here we have this test scenarios that we can use. And of course, I also ask it to look at some of the error scenarios and some of the edge cases. Again, we could adjust the prompt and get something else, but this could be a good starting point. Let's try the next one, and that is kind of closing in on, we're about to code something here. We could have adjusted the input here with test scenarios and stuff like that. If we're closing in on the coding, we might also get input for that. But I will also acknowledge that most developers these days, they sit with a programming tool that perhaps are also AI enabled. What we need to consider as a team is, how does these things interact with each other? And how do we keep the humans in the loop? How do we perhaps go from one tool to the other? Because we cannot really code in Trello. We could try to do it, but we have to consider that. How does that work with our team processes? And if you're a team coach, then we would expect you to help the team to do that. Ask the teams what is a good way of working together with these informations and getting input. So as we can see here, we can also get code from a chatbot, of course. These days, they're actually improving a lot on coding. And it could also give us documentation, for example. It could give us a lot of different things. So as you can see here, we are trying to take the team perspective on using AI. Instead of just chatting along individually with a chatbot, we want to have it as a team effort, and we want to share prompts. We want to understand the flow of work. And who can help us with that? Well, that's the team coach, I would assume. So what could a few steps be to help the team to be AI enabled? First, you have to agree on goals and principles for this change. And perhaps you can be a little bit inspired with the principles we have shared today. And a good offset is also to describe the team process. What are we actually doing today? And how can we enable AI in some of these steps? And perhaps do it in small steps. Take one process at a time, introduce that, see how it works. Remember to share and collaborate on the configurations and prompts. You can also help the team with that as a team coach. Because sometimes you have to have some skills in prompting to get this going in a good way. And as we always do in agile teams, we stop, reflect, and adjust continuously. So we might get a new theme for our retrospectives. We have to evaluate how the AI assistant is helping us right now, and how can we work in the next sprint to improve these AI assistants that help us. So we expect a lot of you as team coaches and Scrum Masters to help the teams with AI enabling their team processes. We try to also share our experiences around this, and there are several opportunities to connect to us again. We have a team coach, Scrum Master, AI-enabled course coming up here in a few weeks. But we will also dive even more deeply into the team context that I just kind of briefly showed. How can we work with AI-enabled collaborative teams? And leadership also need to work with these tools, and product owners. We have a small online course just before the summer holiday. And after summer, you can join us for a little bit of a special or unique event where we use AI with Lego. Some of you that knows us from previously, we often use Lego as a way of introducing new methodologies and practices. And we've given ourselves the challenge of using AI together with Lego. So perhaps you can see us there also. I think that was what we had for you today. Just before you close down, share one thing that you take home from this session and perhaps gives a little bit of feedback. I think there's only left to say thanks a lot for the morning here and have a very nice day.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking your time and participating. Any feedback will be a gift for us. So thank you.